Hello, it's me, Jess. Welcome to my channel. I'm here with another channeled message. This is a specific message. It might resonate with you, it might not. All right, so I've got a masculine energy coming through and I had to cut him off and run and go find my microphone because it was all coming out like so fast and there was so much. So I'm going to try and like back up and get out what it was that he was saying. But in my mind, I'm picturing a needle and a balloon. And I'm picturing like the needle popping the balloon. The balloon is red in my mind, if that means anything to anyone. But I feel like something has just happened and it feels like outside of him, like external. I am hearing the word click, something clicked, but it's also coming through like double click or like click. It could even involve like a click or like a social group. There's something here about like click, but something I feel like clicked internally. It could be that he like double clicked on certain things. It may even have nothing to do with this situation. It's just that spirit kind of led this person down an internet rabbit hole and it gave this person kind of the perfect metaphor and then they kind of applied it to your situation. I'm not sure. There's something here about like click. So something clicked though. And I feel like it's somehow related to something in the external world. And so something just happened. I feel like, I don't know if this has to do with you or if it has to do with something else. I'm seeing the needle. Okay. That is like kind of the ignition, but I wonder if there was like needling or someone, could have been you, could have been someone else, maybe said something very sharp and pointed and it clicked, something here clicked or then he clicked on something. I don't know. So there's something here to do with that. And I feel like that was the moment though, where like the balloon popped. And again, I'm seeing the red balloon and the balloon is filled with air and air to me is communication. So I feel like that's this communication because that is exactly the way that he started coming through to me. Because also I was not like trying to sit down and record a reading. It was just all coming out at once. And it felt like very urgent, like blah, 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 blah. Like, and I understand all this now. And wait, I gotta kind of get all of this out. And it's like that balloon popped because I'm seeing him blow his air into the balloon and then like tie it off. So it seems to me that there's been some kind of communication and it feels whole, right? It feels like, okay, he blew all of his communication into the balloon, tied it off, and it's like whole in and of itself. So I feel like a lot of things that he wants to say, but it's like a capsule, it's like encapsulated. It somehow paints some type of whole picture or I don't know. And so he tied it off and it's like, yeah, everything that he kind of wanted to say and it's red. So I feel like it's maybe passionate in like a romantic, spicy kind of way, but also maybe in like an anger kind of way. But this doesn't feel like deep anger. This feels kind of like tiff anger. Like, why did you say that? Why did you have to, do me that way or whatever? Like I have so much passion for you. This feels like I'm going to kiss you and yell at you at the same time, kind of a vibe. And also I'm seeing like in the balloon because, the balloon's going to sit there and then like kind of get deflated. And so maybe like, he at first like wanted to say something or like blew something into a balloon instead of like actually communicating it to you and then tied it off and then like it got kind of like deflated, but I still feel like it just popped, whatever it was. And I'm hearing that loud, just kind of, pop energy. And that's, some of you maybe did hear from this person or you're going to hear from this person, but certainly like in the ethers and the energies, like this person is just like blah, 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 blah. Like it feels like they're getting kind of everything off of their chest, but there's certain things that they want to communicate. So that's what they were kind of like bringing through. And before I just go diving into that, because Lord knows how fast that's going to all, come out. But I'm kind of getting something about like, I just want to say I'm picking up a lot about his energy and maybe this is part of like the realization that he was having. So there's something about his energy and the way that it comes across where it's like, it's not like quite flamboyant, but it's like flamboyant adjacent or like very alluring, very charismatic, very social, easygoing, easy to get along with, very fluid. And it is almost like, I almost want to say gender fluid. And I don't mean that in like an Aquarian kind of way. He may well be, it is kind of giving bi, but I don't know this man's schmegduality. It's just giving that he is very like open and he's appealing to like a lot of people. Dare I say this man is popular? This man is like popular, but I feel like that label doesn't really stick to him the way it sticks to like other people. And I think that might be a factor here. And it's something to do with the fact that he's a man. Somehow like the way that he dresses that, I don't know, signals something. And something about where he's from like maybe his beginnings or something here like that. And so the fact that he is popular, it's like not a death sentence. The way that maybe it is for you, or it's like it is for somebody, like it would be for like another kind of person. And I'm saying that because remember I was saying like click earlier, and I wasn't actually picking up on this until I kind of got into this. I wonder if this is part of what he's like realizing, because I'm seeing a group stand behind this man. But this group is, okay, so I'm actually seeing a Venn diagram. Remember those like two circles that are like overlapping? And okay, Vesica Pisces is like another thing that's kind of coming across. Maybe this man is a Pisces, Vesica Pisces. I don't know. That might mean something to someone. But like and actually it is kind of the female organ, but this is a man. That's what I'm saying. There's this like energy here of this is a masculine's coming through, but there is something kind of feminine, but it makes him like sparkly and it makes him like natural, it makes him have like a social grace about him that people kind of respond to. And despite there being a charisma here, it's almost like this man has been dipped in, I just heard boring. It's almost like he's been dipped in like casual or pensive or philosophical, something, I don't know, bookish or academic or calm, something here like that. So he's got this blend of energies is basically kind of what I'm picking up on. Well, this group that stands behind him is solidly of one energy. They don't actually share his blend of energies, and he stands out amongst them, and he is tolerated and, dare I say, venerated, like kind of by this group, because he's got this je ne sais quoi. He does. And you know what his je ne sais quoi is? I feel like it's you, bitch. I feel like he's got this overlapping energy with you. He's got the same kind of something that you have, and it mixes with his energy just right. And it's kind of like catnip. And so he is praised like within this group because he is, I want to say, I feel like the words are not quite right here, so I'm just going to do my best. Like, I want to say like counterculture or like alt, but it doesn't, I feel like whenever you say that, you kind of automatically think about like goth or something, but it doesn't have to be that. It could be like nerd culture, or it could be like Kundalini, where everybody is wearing white and like wearing scarves. I'm not sure what this is, but with this group, there is this hidden sense of superiority, or it could be overt in some cases, like there is, it's like we are better than you. But I feel like that is in some way subconscious to this group because of whatever this group is. Because they're either like, I don't know, maybe they've been down and out. They've like had humble beginnings and so their identities are kind of meshed together about like, we're on the outside because they put us on the outside, kind of a thing. But we are who we are. And I feel like there's maybe a way that these people signal that or dress. There's a culture here that is kind of tended to. And what's funny? Because I feel like I'm seeing him out in front of this group and he's coming forth to meet you. It's like, he's the ambassador to like, of meeting you. And so then you probably met, I don't know who this group is. It's probably a mix of people. You would probably know who this is. Like, it could be like his family. It could be his friends. It could be a mix. It could, I don't know, who people he works with. There's something here. And this group actually does feel threatened in a way by your presence. But what's funny is I think that you felt some type of solidarity with him and with this group. You thought you were of like one mind, or like you thought there was a similarity here that you attach onto. But I do want to say, I actually think that there's a genuine spirituality here within you. Not that it's a spiritual culture, not that it's a spiritual aesthetic, not that it's like a fad or anything. I genuinely think that there's like a spirituality to you where when you meet somebody, I just saw you reach out and like shake hands and with another person and form like a bridge between your hands. I feel like you are good at that. You're popular. You are like popular. But again, I don't think that you view yourself that way. And I think that just because, I feel like that in you, because of all the things, I just heard anti-hero. I feel like because of all the things that he is, remember that I listed before, how he's like a man and he dresses a certain way, all those things that you are, and by the way, there's a word for these things that I'm saying, and it's superficial. And that's a word that I feel like this group is like, we're not superficial. Oh my God. But they're the most, because that's the issue that they've got with you. And it has to do with the fact that you're a woman. There's a way that you dress. Maybe there's a way that you speak, I just heard. And there's a place that you're from. Like all of those kind of things. So when you exhibit kind of the same qualities that he has, I feel like there's an easygoingness to you. Dare I say a charisma? Maybe for some of you, you are flamboyant in some kind of way. But I feel like, the flamboyance I just heard as like uppity. I just heard them say uppity. But you could just be kind of, excited, when you meet people, like you're high energy and like your eyes are bright and you're attentive. Like whenever you're meeting somebody, that's seen as like annoying and it's seen as fake. I'm hearing fake. You were called fake for the same. You possess the literal same energy that this man possesses. The thing that they praise in him, that they are okay with because of superficiality and because it's like he embodies to them this overlap of counterculture and popularity in some kind of way that's okay to them. And you don't. You represent the middle of the circle. They are at the periphery of the circle according to them. And I don't think that's the way that you saw these people. I think you saw them as on your level. I think you saw them, and I don't think that their difference, whatever their difference was, I don't think that it was a problem for you at all in the slightest. I think that you found out after the fact. And I think you found out because I'm seeing you outstretch your hand to shake someone's hand and make that bridge, and somebody here cut your wrist, if not like multiple, and made you bleed, and you were vulnerable. The wrist is a very vulnerable place, and so you were vulnerable because of your kindness, because that you reached out. And I think it's mind-boggling to you that there's such a lack of self-reflection here, because it also, whatever counterculture group is going on here, I don't know if he's having this realization, because he was giving me a bunch of realizations, and now I'm off on this tangent, but this group, because of their counterculture-esque. And what I mean by that is there's a culture here. There's a way that they dress. There's a way that they speak. There's a way that they reaffirm their culture and their identity. And what I mean by that is their ego. But because of whatever this group is, they think that they have transcended ego. This is very dangerous because the ego is very strong here in this group, because they think ego is vogue. They think that if you dress like whatever the magazines say that you should dress like, that is what having an ego is, instead of understanding that these people are very strongly in ego consciousness. Their ego has built itself and defined itself in an oppositional way, though. Their ego always says, I am, right? So their ego says, I am different than that. And I feel in a weird way, it's threatening to meet somebody like you with your hand outstretched, because you kind of embody, I just saw Aquarius energy, which, by the way, Aquarian is counterculture. It's different, right? But I just saw Aquarius energy run through your hand as this kind of ignition, like reach out. There's like a spark whenever you're shaking somebody's hand here. And it was meant to be a mirror. And I actually think that there's something here where you have illuminated, or you're meant to illuminate, because there's a lot of thick-headedness when it comes to like the ego that's going on over here. You're meant to illuminate that these people are on the outside for no other reason than themselves. They're choosing to be on the outside. They met somebody that was on the inside in some kind of way that was very open and very accepting. And I think maybe that's like what he's realizing too, is that you had a lot of elasticity for him and for like these other people, even though there are definitely differences. And I want to say with the balloon, I'm seeing like whippets. So like drugs, like that could have been part of it. Or this kind of like pain, the way that pain is kind of expressed in this group. I feel like you were very accepting. You were very actually like tolerant. And these people who, they were not very tolerant of you at all. And like, I just heard the word mask for some reason. They were masking their intolerance, and they were projecting like their own intolerance. And I think it's like kind of coming from a painful place, but I feel like you were treated badly by this group of people. And it's like everything that they say that like society or like the man or somebody is like doing to them, actually they did to you. And they didn't even notice it. Like, and that's what I'm saying. There seems to be my ear just started ringing. I feel like something like this is hard to hear, but this is genuine spirituality. This is like meant to bring about like a genuine ego death. And I feel like on a soul level, these were people that could kind of feel that, they could kind of feel this is challenging my worldview. And I'm going to have to go deeper with, and I also just heard like, why are you mixing with her? Like you guys shouldn't be mixing, which sounds like old timey and it sounds a certain way. And I feel like they're saying that to him because it's like they were feeling very threatened because being confronted with your energy, where if they actually got to know you, like, and they were actually not superficial, like I feel like these are people that don't understand their own superficiality in a way. And it's kind of obnoxious because you can't even get across to them. Like you can't even have like a deeper conversation. And I feel like maybe we're trying to. So I feel like there was some type of like misunderstanding. So anyways, that was kind of like a bit of a tangent, but again, I feel like he's kind of realizing that maybe. So what was coming through originally though, is he was like, again, it all came out kind of like blah, 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 you know? So I feel like he's saying that there was a misunderstanding here between the two of you. And this card that came out, so it's misinterpretation, misinformation, ineffective, and communication. So there could have been ineffective communication here. He could have been fed misinformation, or there was some type of misinterpreting of your actions, because these people had already made up their minds about you. These are the mean girls, but they are alt in some way, you know, like, and they could also be men. Like, you see what I'm saying? But they were just determined to misinterpret you and your kindness and, you know, your openness and your actions. And so he's saying that there was some type of misunderstanding, and it could have been because he had been around this like terrible talk about you and marinated in it. Even though he felt very strongly and he felt very like passionate and very romantic. And so that actually led to some type of like fake death energy, but it was like this like kind of fake death energy, because in that, I feel like he was disguising, or he was concealing, keeping secrets, or like hiding some type of truth here in this situation. And then right after that, we've got fall in love. So like, I think that he was hiding that he felt very romantic and that he was like actually falling in love, because this person is like actually kind of a romantic type. But I feel like there's also something about him where he thought like, you couldn't possibly love me or like take me seriously. And it could be because of all this like rotten weird shit that people were saying about you or implying about you, or prejudices, prejudging of you, that people were kind of like stoking within him, or that he was stoking within himself. And so he kind of felt like you could never really like love him. So I feel like he is actually like a very schmegdual person. And I feel like he's kind of used to that. I feel like he's used to, I just heard like fly-by-nighter, you know, he's just used like a turnover guy, you know, but I feel like there's a lot of energy and passion that's like put into that, because essentially this guy is like very, and I feel like there's something about that in his energy where it is like very fantasy. It is very like, again, charismatic, very passionate, very romantic, like that's kind of coming through. But I don't think that he ever would have said that before, because I don't actually think this man felt that he had permission to be that or to explore that side of himself. He had to be like unserious. He had to act like he didn't want the things that he wanted because of this classification. I feel like there's this, I feel like there's, yeah, it's something here about like group, like classifying, like he's in a certain group, you know, and this group reinforces that, like we are all like of a group. And what's crazy is I feel like, I want to say almost in hindsight, you were like, oh, they're solidly of a group that like I'm not in. I think you could always see that. It's just not your worldview, really. And I'm not even blowing smoke. I think genuinely you have at least done enough work on yourself. Like, I'm not going to say that you have had like an ego death. Well, maybe you did. But at the very least, I feel like this caused you like an ego death that was false. Like, because this group is hard mirroring back to you something that you're not, because they refuse to get to know you like on any kind of genuine level, because they're scared. This is an ego defense of like kind of not getting to know you, even though I feel like you were sent in, like this is such healthy energy. It scares them that they could actually love you. It scares them that they could actually, because then they would have to start, it would start unraveling their own fantasy, like their own worldview, you know, if they actually love you. And if you're, then who would they be? I feel like a lot of these people, Spirit is showing me that their style would change and the way that they speak would change. And actually the way that they pursued their life path would change, but actually it's getting them on the right path. And it's actually connecting them with genuinely, with a deeper part of self and like who they are. Because some of these people, I think they have genuinely been through stuff. And I think for some of these people, this is genuinely like their authentic expression. But there's some people in this group where I think they've kind of placed themselves here because they don't know where else to go. And for some, Spirit is giving me kind of like, there is like a histrionic nature where it's like, they actually do want attention. But there has been a calculation here for some of these people, as subconscious as it might be, of, well, I could never get the kind of attention that I want or be seen in a certain way, like as superior, I think. If I went to the center, or if I like went to like any other group. So that's why I'm in this group. And that's why I kind of reinforce this group identity so hard. So I wasn't really expecting for all that to kind of come out. That's like kind of come out later. But yeah, so going back to this man, I feel like he thought that you just wanted to fling with him, because I think he feels that everybody just wants to fling with him because, like, I don't know, that's all he has to offer, or people just get really like schmegs really excited about him. And I think that is like very shocking for you to hear. And I think even some of you don't necessarily believe that. And I can kind of feel like why you wouldn't necessarily believe that, because I think for some of you could have even been dating him. Like you guys were like official. It's like, but I was calling you my boyfriend. You were calling me your girlfriend. That, says something here. But I feel like maybe this relationship didn't last for very long because he probably like was maybe sleeping with other people or like ruined it, or because he was never taking it seriously because he just thought that this was like a very passionate kind of a thing. And he's like, wait a second, you were looking at me like boyfriend. And you're like, yeah, actually I was. And I think you're kind of realizing like, wait, you were looking at me as like fling, or it's not even fling. It's like, this is like deeply passionate. Okay. Cause there is something here about like with this balloon popping, like this, like very, very passionate and very, very like, I want to yell at you and make out with you like at the same time kind of a thing. There's so much passion here. And he really wanted to play that out with you. And I think that you pulled away or something. There's been a misunderstanding here because of the way that you guys have kind of seen each other. And again, I feel like this is an ego death, or it's meant to be. It's meant to be like, oh wait, I could be like for him, I think it's like, wait, I could be something else. And it's like, yeah, you're choosing this. Like you can be well-rounded. You could be, cause he has this like kind of beautifully well-rounded, I belong in multiple worlds at one time kind of energy. And it could be healthy, and yeah. And that's kind of like a new thought for him. And so, and I think for you, you're kind of thinking, well, I'm like the girlfriend type, or like I was your girlfriend kind of a thing. So the fact that he was looking at you in this like kind of passionate way, for some of you, I think that he felt you needed like the girlfriend boyfriend label in order to be able to indulge with that. And for some, I feel like also he could have pulled the cord here because he just always thought that you were going to leave him. So he like left before you could, but he's kind of good at stoking this like fantasy or this passion and pouring all of himself into that, because this man is actually a romantic. And I think actually I just heard you were my biggest like fantasy come to life. You were my biggest dream. I actually think that he wanted to fall in love. I think he wanted it to be a fairy tale. But he could like never say that, out loud, but he has this like dreamy kind of quality, like in his energy. Well, that's what it is. The guy's a romantic, but I think he comes across like this, like kind of turnover guy. I do think that he's good at like kind of stoking that and have it be kind of like short-lived, but there you were. And it was like, I don't know, it feels like you actually could have fallen in love together. And this could have been, what he really, really wanted. And he just couldn't admit that, or he didn't want these other people to see that. He kind of sees you as his person, and he thinks that you are very strong and very beautiful. And so when the misunderstanding happened here, and there was whatever death that happened like between the two of you, that I think he wants to tell you, like, it didn't actually die for me. Like, I have always had this kind of passion. I feel like this guy could have been even kind of mad at you that you didn't play something out. And he was resentful that you didn't like play something out. And it's not that you didn't want to explore the passion between the two of you, but you're not going to be disrespected, and there's certain things like, I just feel for some of you, this guy's not quite good at playing like the boyfriend role. He doesn't know what comes with that kind of a thing. It would be cute if it wasn't like destructive, and so I think you were like, whoa, we got to get some things straight here, like this is very passionate between the two of us. It is very deep, and that is, I'm not going to be vulnerable to some type of pain. And also, like, you need to muzzle your bitch is what I'm hearing. Like there's like, this is not okay what goes on, and you have to be like able to defend me, like against these people who are saying blatantly false things about me, he's like, he wasn't willing to do that. So it led to some type of misunderstanding, but he's saying like, look, it never died for me. Like I'm like still falling in love with you. But I feel like for some, this man may have like moved on really quick, and then like maybe even acted like he was in love with somebody else. Yeah. Acted like somebody else was like, his person. And I feel like his guides were like, oh my gosh. So yeah. Let me see if there's anything else that's coming through. Yeah. Okay. So Capulet, fatherly love, controlling dogmatism. There is a dogmatic quality to this group. And it is kind of, there's something about this group and like maybe this worldview or something that's been broken through where it's very matchy. It's like he didn't think a counterculture group could be dogmatic, and they are. or he thought because he's counterculture that he couldn't be dogmatic or that he couldn't be controlling, and that this isn't this kind of like, it also somehow has to do with fatherly love and like maybe the way that his father loved him or something. He maybe also thought that this group was like kind but actually, because I think they could be relied upon, he felt like because this group is counterculture in some way, that they could be relied upon to support him. Yeah. And yeah, I think he thought that there was some kind of like brief passion energy that was going to play out between the two of you. But I think you were actually serious. These maybe, I feel like with him and maybe with like these other people, they're not used to maybe being taken seriously or taken seriously in a certain way. He felt like it was like a masquerade, and you felt like it was a masquerade, like kind of after the fact, but you were being genuine like the whole time. And you felt like he was being fake. Yeah. There's something here about like a rejection. I think maybe he felt rejected by you, or he brought about a rejection. Like this feels like sabotage. He brought about a rejection because of this like misunderstanding. And I genuinely think that the misunderstanding, there was a lot of misunderstandings going on with him. I feel like, I want to say before you met, like misunderstanding about his own energy and like who he is on a deep level and what it is that he wants. Because I feel like there's this repressed desire to be basically like get the princess. And I feel like you were the princess, and I feel like you were his, and you were totally down for it. And he just didn't recognize that that's kind of what was going on. But there's a lot of pretense kind of like behind this man about this group. And, this is a group that's always got his back or whatever. Yeah. And then, okay, so we've got a forced marriage card. Loss of freedom, excess interference. Well, there's definitely been excess interference. He feels like something here's like a forced marriage, and it might even be because this group is so solidly of one mind and they're so dogmatic, and he feels actually that this group will not accept him. He didn't realize that either. That on some level he felt like this group will not accept him if maybe he dates a kind of person like you. The fact that you're female maybe, or the fact that you dress a certain way, or that you're from a certain place, or that you speak a certain way. And so even if it's not like the church or his parents or somebody forcing him to marry you, it's this group. It's this group think, this group mindset that claims to be liberated or claims to have like no ego or no opinion. This man is not free to love whoever he wants to love. That was news to him. There's a dogma, like a dogmatism, I want to say, and it's controlling, and maybe it masquerades as like fatherly love and caring kind of energy, or maybe even like, humorous or something, but it's actually not that. And he's realizing that there's like a barrier that it's a quiet barrier that he knows that he's realizing on some level he's always known that he shouldn't cross with you. And I think maybe it's taking you seriously. This is actually we really like each other. Actually, we have a lot in common. The side to me that you guys find so enamoring, like actually that overlaps with this other person, and you like me, but you don't like her, question mark. We're also evolved. Like, let's be evolved about this, yeah. And so I think now he's realizing that there's a lot of misunderstandings in the people that he has cavorted with and kind of allowed to really surround him and impress upon him and marinate around him, and in some cases leech off of him and maybe his popularity or like his good graces. It's created a lot of obstacles between the two of you, and it feels like there's a barrier that the two of you cannot cross in terms of your communication, because I think he is a bit embarrassed of saying my group didn't accept you, and it was for bullshit. Basically because I think there is something about this group where it's like, we're not superficial and we don't judge people and we don't blah, blah, blah. But it's like, no, this group didn't accept you because of superficial. It was all fake. Everybody was prejudging you. It's an ego death, not just for him, but actually for this group. But I'm not sure that this group is like actually ready to talk about this kind of stuff amongst themselves about like, wow, we really got this person wrong. Wow, turns out we were the superficial clowns. I just don't think so. Of like, wow, we need to kind of like be deeper than we actually like are, just because we dress a certain way doesn't mean that we're actually like deep. Just because I have a lot of emotions, doesn't mean that I'm empathetic or that I'm an emotional person or that I'm mature in my emotional capacity. And this is like a real wake up call to do that. And I think so it's made something hard to talk about actually. it's like there's this quiet boundary that like the two of you can't. And I'm seeing like at the end of Pride and Prejudice, and I feel like Pride and Prejudice, there are themes here. He's actually feeling embarrassed about the level of pride and prejudice, because I think this was all projected onto you, to be honest. I actually am not getting that you were prideful or prejudiced. I think that you were made to believe that you were. I think that was the discussion about you, like behind the scenes. But at the end, when they walk together in the field, well, they're both like walking at night, and then they meet in the field, you know, and Mr. Darcy looks at Elizabeth and he's like, my aunt, because his aunt showed up, and his aunt is this like very rich lady. She's got a lot of pull. She felt like she could just show up to the Bennett's house in the middle of the night and just rip Elizabeth a new one, because a rumor of the most alarming nature has reached me, and that you intend to be united with my nephew. And Elizabeth is like, well, I've never heard of it. And Elizabeth didn't tell anybody. Even though that would have raised her profile to embarrass him, she didn't, because she's not that kind of person. And she was processing her own feelings and stuff. And so he's saying like, look, my aunt. And in this case, I feel like maybe there is a certain, like my father figure, or this heinous group that I cavort with, you know, and you're like, yeah, you know, and you believed a bunch of weird shit about me, and you blamed me. And you like maybe ran off with somebody here, and you were trying, all of it's an abusive mindset that's like really coming from this man, and like the crew behind him. It's all, I just saw the like flying monkeys around the Wicked Witch. So that to me, it's like alluding to narcissism. He might think that you think that he's a narcissist, and I think he can understand, oh my God, she thinks I'm a narcissist. She'd have to. Oh my gosh, she thinks I'm abusive, because this group is so solidly of one mind. They feel very entitled to do whatever it is that they do, because they, feel some type of way about society, or about like whatever you represent to them. And I feel like you would know what this is. And you just became the mascot. You didn't ask to, but they just made you the mascot of whatever it is that their egos define themselves as being oppositionally against. So there was a blindness that these people had literally from the moment that they met you, because you ticked certain boxes, and it's like they stopped relating to you. They couldn't get to know you because you just became that emblem. So they felt entitled to treat you a certain way. And they justified their abuse of you, and they justified their projection, and they justified the way they were speaking about you, even though none of it was true. And it's like, it's hard to kind of get under this, but it's like, because they were in that, there's such a blindness and there's such a prejudice like towards your energy, and such a tolerance of this. It just feels like you didn't stand a chance. It just feels like they could never have seen you. They could never have seen you like right off the top. And I think there was quite a bit of suffering here, and I think you were the last to know. And there's a lot of fake, you know, like I think that you were accused of being fake, but then I think that you've kind of, when you realized kind of what was going on over here, I think you were like, oh, those were all fake people. And the thing is, you're absolutely correct. The way that they behaved towards you was duplicit and fake. And they don't want to see that. And if and until this man and this group can say we're fake people, there can be no healing here. And that's not even you saying that. That's just the universe saying that's the karma here. Is they have to realize, sorry, my battery died. So as I was saying, I feel like for this man and for this group that stands behind him, it's like spirit used you as a mirror, but also as this like lightning spark, this jolt to light up their darkness, to light up what was hidden for them, their blind spot that they couldn't see, to light up their shadow. And I almost want to say that you were a sacrifice in that way. I feel like your soul was in full cooperation with this, but I'm hearing like to sacrifice is to make sacred. And I feel like this is an offering here, like to this group. Now you see it. And now there is this kind of, you can't claim ignorance. I genuinely feel himself and this group, they were ignorant of their own ego. So this is a wake-up call, an enlightening experience where they're being invited and they're being asked and maybe even kind of prodded to map their own ego. Now they have to be confronted with, I have not transcended ego. My ego defines itself in opposition to things. That alone is going to assist each one of these souls to clear their karmas in a big way, because these are souls that have karmas built up around these things in other arenas, like not just towards you. I feel like they've got some kind of big, nasty, negative karma towards you, but they have karmas built out in other directions that now they are in the driver's seat. If they can map their ego and if they can understand that and truly transcend and not bypass their ego, they can clear out those karmas. Also, for everyone involved on that side, they need to potentially acknowledge their own narcissism, their own duplicit nature, their own tendency to be fake, and their own abusive mindset, like in themselves, but also that congeals into this like abusive culture that I feel like has settled in amongst them. It navigates their conversations and it hides in their blind spots. It masquerades as something else. There is entitlement here, and there's justification of abusing other people. And they're not the enlightened ones like here in this situation. They have to kind of understand that and then take the accountability to clean it up amongst themselves. And that is clearing their karmas here as well. And this group, it won't be a group anymore. Not the way that you know it. There's plenty of people here who are going to leave. They shouldn't be here to begin with. And the people that do kind of are able to kind of heal this together, their relationship will take a much more healthy shape to it. It'll look like there's healthy boundaries here. They'll be just, friends that kind of check in from time to time. Or maybe some of these people will even be best friends, but they won't be tending an abusive mindset, between each other. And that is clearing up because they were abusers. They were your abusers. And this feels very mob. This feels very mob mentality, like towards you. And in the most obnoxious way, because these are people you could never even have hoped to get through to, because they prejudged you so hard. And they were so in the dark about this that they were projecting those traits. They couldn't have possibly fathomed that it was settled into like their own blind spot. So it really is a powerful gift that I feel like you've kind of given to these people. And I'm hearing like you understand that someone has once given you this gift as well. As Ram Dass says, we are all walking each other home. And so, yeah, there's a lot to be kind of like contended with here. And I feel like he's realizing, shit, that was my soulmate. That was my person. And maybe they don't speak right, or they don't have the right aesthetic or whatever, but shit, that was my soulmate. And it's all this weird superficial shit that I've been aligning myself with, telling myself that it's depth because there's a way that this group dresses, that's supposed to signify depth, like LOL to that. Like, do you hear it? And I feel like he's hearing it now. And so are maybe other people here, but it feels like there was a lot of jealousy here, and that it's hard for these people to kind of give you your flowers and give you your props. And I'm kind of seeing like a shock right now. Like it's an ego shock of like, oh my God, like it's hard for these people. And I think that it's hard for these people to kind of see that, but I do feel that there's been some type of like wake up call here. And like they're having to recognize there's some type of cunning that they were a part of, some kind of targeting that they were a part of, just the dark side of their own nature. And they're going to have to cultivate patience with themselves and self-love. And I feel like that'll go a long way here as well. And also there's something here about covert contracts. And where there's a covert contract, because covert means hidden. And there may have literally been like some kind of type of weird pact here that would, if that's the case, I feel like you're dealing with sort of maybe next level, like, yes, it's abuse, but it's not as buried as it would be with some of these other groups. If there's like an actual pact to gang up on you, to exclude you, to leave you out, that's more overt kind of bullying. But covert contracts, like in a psychological sense, it's like these hidden contracts that we tend to make with other people. Well, I don't call you out on your bullshit. You don't call me out on mine, and that's where this becomes this swampy kind of nasty ass group, because these souls are joined together to keep themselves stinky and stuck, instead of, hey, we can reflect the light back to each other. We can become more enlightened together, and kind of walk ourselves out of the dark here. Our bond does not have to be because we all feel so insecure. It feels like everybody here is like kind of feeling so insecure that it feels like nobody is allowed to really say like, well, hey, I think I was feeling kind of, nope. Like, even though I feel like this group kind of acts like they have that here. So I don't know. And this forced marriage card is like, I don't know, coming out here too. And maybe it's because, again, it's his lower nature. This group is very tolerant of his lower nature. So it could be that he's in some type of marriage that this group expects him to be with. And it's aesthetically pleasing, whatever it is. But he can still be that Romeo energy that's kind of passionate. It could be because he's sleeping with more than one people in this group. And that's what they want. And that's fine if it is coming from a healed place, but it just doesn't feel like it's coming from a healed place, and that not being able to, let go of the leashes that they're all kind of putting on each other. It's preventing people from actually being able to process like the deeper shit, like the actual emotions, the hurt, the pain. And it's also reminding me, this is the last thing I'll say, is like, in the Enneagram. So there's like base fears and base desires, and your base desire arises from base fear. But all of it is a distortion. All of it's like an illusion, because the base desire is this like kind of approximation of what an elementary level your mind can kind of comprehend would be the solution to whatever your base fear is. And I think that maybe for some of these people, it's like they want the group, they want allegiance, they want loyalty, and maybe it's not like shaping up like a mafia group. Like I'm hearing myself in previous readings, I'm like, this is like a mafia group. But if I said that to this man, he wouldn't identify this group as a mafia group because of the aesthetic. They're not looking at the energy. They're just looking at the aesthetic, and they're saying, because I dress a certain way, I have all of these qualities. LOL. LOL, LOL, right? That's just sitting veneer. That's right on the surface. I can wear a purple shirt today and a green shirt tomorrow, and I'm still stuck with the person that I am. I shouldn't let that distract me from doing my actual shadow work. But I feel like that's a little bit what's going on here. And I'm actually hearing myself say in another reading, I think I did call that out, where it's like somebody's version of doing introspective work is actually very like categorizing of people, they have the wrong things kind of clustered together. If I wear white, it means that I'm pure and blameless. And if I wear black, it means that and it doesn't mean those things. And it's like getting over the kind of superficial, I don't know, but there has been a genuine attempt here, I think, there has been a genuine acknowledgement that something about mainstream isn't actually working, but it's tried to solve that on the same level of consciousness that created it. It's tried to solve that on a horizontal plane instead of going deeper, which is on a vertical plane, right? Going down. So it's tried to solve it, but it's tried to solve it on that same horizontal plane. And so it's just moved adjacent to whatever it is and called itself different. And it changed its stripes. You see what I'm saying? So I feel like there's something about that. It feels like maybe a deeper spiritual lesson, but like I said, something is like kind of clicking together, and it could be because you called something out here or somebody else did. There was something I think Sharp said, and it could have been you or it could have been somebody else. And then it kind of popped this man's bubble, and he realized that maybe he should have said what he was saying all along, because there's been some type of misunderstanding here. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there. If that resonates, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye, guys.